fans of the podcast, we're back and it's time for another episode of Meeting You Where You're At. And on this episode, we speak with Abby Michaelsen from Statement Home. Statement Home is a revolutionary home decor company, and you're gonna love their product, Jack of All Trays. In fact, celebrities like Jessica Alba and Sofia Vergara have been seen using the Jack of All Trays product. Abby took a viral TikTok video and turned it into thousands upon thousands of dollars in sales. And most recently, over the summer of 2023, her products have found their way into brick and mortar stores in addition to her online catalog. Abby is going to take us through her very brave journey to focus on being an entrepreneur in the home decor space. So please give a listen to Abby and Statement Home coming right up. And for more information on Statement Home, just visit statementhome.com. That's statementhome.com. Abby, I'm so excited to talk to you today, but I think I'm more excited that you are hanging out in Venice Beach, California right now. Tell me what that's like. How is it there right now?
Yes, well, I love being in Venice. I live about an hour south of Venice,
Okay.
but I have taken over my brother and sister-in-law's apartment for the week while they're out of town
Nice.
for the 4th of July.
Nice.
So it's really nice.
So so Southern California is funny that way, right? Because you say you live about an hour away from Venice.
Without traffic.
Without traffic. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, yeah, traffic is ridiculous. But there's so many micro communities and cultures and climates and everything else that happens in California. I'm sure it probably feels like you're much further away from home than you really are, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even in LA, if I just drive 20 minutes to parts of Santa Monica, it feels like a completely different place.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Before we went on air, I was telling you how I was in Hermosa Beach in May, and it was funny because it was cold. It was like in the 60s.
Yeah, we
And
had a harsh winter.
yeah, and people were like wearing their like Columbia, like,
Yeah.
not fleece, but what do you call those jackets? Like the down jackets almost,
Yeah.
right? And people from Boston, like myself, not me, but other people were like in their shorts and their tees and like, well, we're in California, so we're gonna wear shorts because damn it, we're in California. And I was like, it's so cold. And everybody we were talking to in Hermosa Beach was like, oh yeah, to your point, this has been a harsh winter. We're
And
not.
yeah, there's numbers that back it up. Like it's X amount of numbers of straight gray weather, like
Oh my
over 20
gosh.
something.
Wow.
And I mean, yeah, it was not harsh compared to Boston, but our winter
Right.
was gloomy, rainy, cold, not normal.
So I'm so excited to talk to you today and about Statement Home. I'm very excited that we had a mutual connection that put us together, which was really fun. And but first things first, you're like, okay, like no big deal, but you guys were just like on Good Morning America, like 2 days ago, 3 days
Oh
ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
6 days ago,
6 days ago. Okay.
it's Tuesday.
What was that
Yeah,
experience like?
I mean, was really wild.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, I've been working on this since November. Right now it's June.
Right.
So they reached out to me in November about partnering with them to get the product on one of their shopping segments. And I was kind of freaking out. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
how do they even
I
find
didn't
me?
find me. How do they know who I am? I mean, they have producers who do research and stuff, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so one of my Instagram reels showed up on their reels feed, which just shows you
Ah,
never know who's looking at your
you
post.
never know, right?
I mean, what if I didn't post that reels? Who knows? Like, wouldn't
Yeah,
have been on Good
all
Morning
this
America.
serendipity. Yeah,
Yeah. And so then it was a lot of work to figure out, can I handle this?
ah,
Because they form it into a whole shopping segment. You run a flash sale through their Good Morning America website,
perfect. Yep.
and they have a very loyal fan base
Oh
shopping.
yeah, people that watch that show tried and true every day, right? Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they have great deals. I mean, everything's 50% off every day. And so I had to figure out the math. Can I afford the 50%
Sure.
discount? Can I afford to buy enough inventory, which I'm sure we'll talk more about the challenges of cash flow with a small business
Sure.
and, the timing of it. When does it make sense to do? And then on my end, I was just trying to figure out, how do I get the most out of it? Like,
Yeah.
how do I share it to my
Maximize it.
social
Yeah.
medias? How do I get more people talking about it? And
Sure.
um yeah, and now it's been about a week and all the orders have been sent out. And yeah, it was really crazy seeing my product on national TV.
Unbelievable. And would you, leading indicators, do you feel like it was a success? Is it still too early to tell? I mean, how are you feeling about where you sit right now, kind of in the funnel?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, like I did more sales from this feature than I did in my first year of business.
Okay,
So
so that's
that,
pretty substantial. Yeah,
but I
yeah,
mean, that's also my first year of business was really small, but
right.
still it's a
Of course.
great comparison. Um, I think that it's great to get these new customers into the Statement Home community because there's
Yeah, of
definitely like my target customer is someone, you know, a group of my target customers is a woman who's watching the show
course.
midday, you know,
Yep.
probably while, you know, working on other things. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of bring them into the fold. I have their emails, you know, what can I get them to, you know, become loyal purchasers and supporters of the brand. Um, and hopefully can use this to get more press,
Yeah.
more attention,
Yeah, absolutely.
more cachet.
Yeah, awesome. All things, all good things. Well, we hope
Yes.
all good things for you. And I actually
Yes.
watched the segment. That's really cool.
Oh, thank
I
you.
watched all your reels associated with it. Let me be clear,
Yes.
and those were great. But let's back up a little bit. So we talked before about sort of your inspiration for Statement Home. So before we talk about that, though, let's talk about Abby the entrepreneur. Right? There's a million things that you can do with your time. Any multiple of things. You're clearly a talented person. So why the entrepreneurial life, Abby, to kind of start?
Oh, good question.
Yeah. You're like, I don't know why. Every morning I ask myself this same question.
I mean, sometimes I do. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? But I always had an interest in starting and running my own thing, not necessarily.
Okay.
I
Not necessarily
didn't
a business,
really
but your own thing. Yeah.
like if you just look at like my childhood in high school and college,
Uh-huh.
like I was always like in charge of something or
Nice.
planning something or
So you're a
putting
leader.
together. Yeah, and like I like in college, I went to a small liberal arts college and like the student government was basically the group that planned all of the events and parties on campus.
Mm-hmm.
It was less of a political thing and more of like a fun thing. And
Sure,
I'm
sure.
thinking, well, if there's a budget to be spent on parties and someone's going to be the one affecting what these events look like, I want to be the one
I
doing
want to be
that.
that
I
person.
want
Yeah.
someone else
Yeah.
planning and this specifically for senior year when we got this big budget and I ended up being senior class president. I was like, no, I can't imagine not being the senior class president, as terrible as that might sound. Like I like if it's something I'm interested in and good at, which is that sort of thing, like I
Sure.
want to be doing it. I want to be making sure that everyone's getting the most out of their experience. And I'm very acutely aware of my strengths and weaknesses.
Sure.
And my strength is this type of thing in some capacity. There's a lot of running a
Yeah.
business that is a weakness, which I'll eventually have to hire for.
Right.
But yeah, I like building something of my own, managing it, seeing it come to fruition, growing it.
You mentioned the self-awareness, Abby. Is that something that you had to work toward, or have you always had sort of a good um, you know, idea and of your and being self-aware, or is that something that came over time? I'm curious as to how you became sort of a self-aware individual.
I mean, I think I'm really self-aware.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a little conceited
No,
to
it's not. It's
say.
not. No,
I
it's not.
actually think I have like extreme
Yeah,
self-awareness.
well, that's good because, like you
Like,
said, you know the things you're really good at, and then
yeah.
that you're not, maybe not so good at.
And there's like a lot I'm really bad at.
You're
And
a human
like,
being. It's okay.
yeah, like in high school, I was playing sports and I was like, I was very well aware that I was nowhere
You were
near
not an athlete. Yeah.
not an athlete, not a star, and like I wasn't going to get into college for a
Right.
sport. So I was
Sure.
like, I'm not playing after a year. Like, why am I wasting my time?
Right. Right.
Something I'm not good at instead of doing something I am good at that's going to help me achieve my goals.
Sure. Sure. Awesome. So let's talk about Statement Home, because I love on your website how you have the line. I think it's something like it all started in either in a shoebox or with it. Like how, what's
In
the,
a shoebox.
it all started in a shoe, and that shoebox is a metaphor for where you were living at the time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
AKA a Manhattan, New York City apartment.
I love watching like those reels and those TikToks of like the parodies on New York Realty, and like, you know, they'll have a parody of a New York realtor, and he'll like open their door and be like, "This apartment's great. It has no bathroom.
Yeah.
You have to share that with three people down the hall, but look, it has one window and
Yeah. I mean, like,
it's big enough for a couch, you know, and it's so fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
My first apartment in New York, I didn't actually see it before moving in because I got a job and like had
Yeah.
to move there so quickly. And I'm from Southern California.
Right.
Um, and I show up with my mom and we had a full bed getting delivered or full mattress.
Sure.
And we both look at each other and say, there's no way
Not gonna happen. Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would have been the entire room and might not have even fit. So then I was in a twin bed. It was like I was back in
You're like
college,
back, yeah,
twin
back in
bed.
the dorm, back in your childhood bedroom. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, paying $1,700 a month to have a twin bed in a really cool neighborhood. That was because it was the East Village and it was really
Oh, that is a cool
cool.
neighborhood. Yeah.
Great location.
Yeah.
And then I moved my second apartment in New York was actually the largest bedroom of my entire life. It was crazy large, but it was a one bedroom apartment turned into a three bedroom.
Oh
We
my
had
Lord.
fake walls in like the living
Oh
room.
yeah.
And then
Aren't those illegal actually, technically?
no, the fake
No.
walls, like there's a way that they make it
They work
legal.
around, they work around that, yeah.
It doesn't go to the ceiling or
I see.
something. But the crazy part was my roommates had to walk into my room to use the shower
Oh,
because my
that's
bathroom had the shower, theirs just had the toilet. So it was like,
yeah.
yes, I live in this great
This is
building,
convenient.
big
Yeah.
room, but my roommates literally walk into my
Walk
bedroom
into
to
my
use
bedroom
the
anytime
shower.
they need to use the bathroom. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally convenient. So you were in a shoebox, aka a New York City apartment, and storage, of course, is always a big priority. My sister lived in a studio on the Upper East Side of Manhattan for many, many years. And much like you're doing with your brother's place right now, we would use her place when she was out of town because we wanted to
Mhm.
spend a weekend in New York. So we would just move into her studio for the weekend. And of course, I was always amazed when I showed up in her studio about like how much stuff she had crammed into her studio. And you know, closets, of course, were a premium, and it was a studio, so there was no bedroom. There was just one.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about the inspiration around kind of like we need to have a better way to store things. We need to have a better way to kind of keep things in order when we're in these small apartments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm living in these apartments. I love interior design, decorating, entertaining, hosting parties.
Fun.
I get a lot of this from my mom, who's an interior designer and also just the best party host ever. And so I'm wanting to do this. I'm finally living on my own in
Yeah.
New York City. I want to invite friends over. I want to
I want
entertain.
to
And
entertain. Yeah.
I'm thinking I barely can store pots and pans.
Let alone things required for entertaining, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
And I'm the type of person that likes things to look like festive or on theme if it's for a
sure.
holiday or like just having variety. So not using the same stuff all the time. And so sort of the light bulb moment was I had a little holiday season gathering. I went out, bought this really cute tray that had like
Yeah.
a Christmassy festive look to it.
Right.
And then afterwards I'm cleaning up and I'm
Like,
thinking,
what do I
where
do with
am I
this tray?
yeah,
Yeah.
where am I going to put it? I'm like
Yeah.
stuffing it into the back of the cabinet
Right.
and thinking it's just going to sit there for literally 11 months.
Right. Yep.
This tray is so specific to the holiday season. I'm not
Right.
going to use it until next December. And now it's taking up all this space in my cabinet. And at first I was just thinking, this is so impractical. Why did
Right.
I buy this? This was
Right.
really stupid of me. And then it made me think, like, why do we do this?
Right. Do we
Why
buy
do we
these like
buy
single season type items?
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
seemed so impractical to
Yeah.
me. And so I assumed, oh, I'm sure there's some sort of product out there that there must be a tray that changes. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
envision
Well, I
exactly
envision like the parallel of like evening. Like this dress goes from day to evening, right? You're like, why can't I
yeah,
have a tray that goes from like Christmas to spring or something, right? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I assumed, oh, that must exist. I cannot be the only person
Yeah.
thinking about this. And so it wasn't ding, 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 business idea. It
Right.
was, oh, like I should look online and
Yeah.
see if
There's
it's
got to
something
be
I can
something.
buy.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't find anything. And I was like, what?
What? How is
This
this? How
seems
is this?
really obvious to me.
So explain the product a little bit then. So there's an interchangeable tray. right? That
Yes.
that
So it's called the Jack of all trades,
love it, love it.
which I didn't come up with that until even after I launched.
Okay.
But the concept is basically it's your all-in-one tray for
Mhm.
entertaining and decorating throughout the year. So we have acrylic trays, recently launched bamboo trays.
Oh, so some
We
sustainability in there. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's just a different material and look.
Yeah,
Long term, I would love for all the materials to be sustainable. It's
sure,
just
sure. Good
difficult when
goal.
you're,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So the acrylic you can pick clear, white, or black, and then
Mhm.
or the bamboo, and then you can style your tray with different inserts. So
Inserts.
you
Yeah,
switch them in and out, and they're reversible. So you get two in one. So there's
nice,
different prints and patterns on each side.
nice.
They're really durable. So like sometimes people will see on TikTok and they think they're like laminated paper.
Right, right. You're like,
No,
no,
like
these are durable. Yeah, yeah.
durable premium. They're thick and sturdy with really high res printing, a glossy protectant, so they're waterproof. If
Super.
you drop some wine on it, you can just wipe it up. It's not gonna like,
Not gonna stain. Yep, yep,
yeah.
yep.
And we have different prints and patterns like year-round, neutrals, holidays, seasons, themes,
Yep.
game day, all sorts of things to cover,
Yep.
about I say every occasion.
Mhm.
There's certainly holidays I haven't done yet.
Right.
I mean, I'm Jewish. I didn't even do Hanukkah until the second year of business because it's
But
a
that's okay.
smaller
You're
market.
building your backlog of product ideas.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't say I have every single holiday that ever exists, but I have
Sure.
many holidays, all the seasons,
Seasons. Yeah.
prints,
Awesome.
patterns, etc.
And folks can obviously interchange them. Like you said, it's a 2-in-1, so they can flip them. It looks like they can stack on top of
Yes,
each
good
other, which
point.
is
I
yeah,
forgot
which is
that.
really cool from a storage perspective, right?
Yeah, so you can store them inside if you were just going to keep it in your cabinet, or if it was on your coffee table, you could have a few inside
Mhm.
without it really being noticeable.
Sure.
And so some customers might leave one out on a coffee table and just have the inserts in a cabinet too. They don't take up much space. And I also forgot to mention our bamboo inserts for the acrylic trays. You stick it in and then it's a cheese board you can cut
Oh, that's
on the
great. So
bamboo.
it's not
So,
just for like service in a prepared way. You can actually, that's great. That's really
yeah, and so if you have a big hunk of cheese and you
yeah.
want people
Yeah.
cutting with a cheese knife. So
Yeah.
that's a bestseller.
Wow, that's awesome. So I want to back up a little bit, Abby. You clearly had a lot of leadership characteristics, right? You mentioned class
Oh,
president,
thanks.
thinking you wanted to be in charge of things. But you know, some of the folks we talked to on the show were like, I was an entrepreneur since birth, right? And I at age 8, I was doing this, or age 5, I was selling tickets in my backyard to a circus, you know, and um I feel like that, you know, you were much more a leader there, right? Entrepreneurship kind of happened upon you. Am I correct in that assumption a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like
Yeah.
not the kid who was
Yeah.
obsessed with like lemonade stands
Lemonade
and
stands and
businesses and trying to
yeah.
just get money from
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Haley Seeger, who was on this show, she created like a racetrack in her backyard, and she used to like charge people to like drive around the racetrack with their bikes and
That's
their motorized thing.
hilarious.
Oh, she's awesome, right? So funny, right? So but talk to me a little bit about characteristics of an entrepreneur. What have you learned on your journey as an entrepreneur? What are some of the important characteristics you think that make up a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think being able to effectively communicate what you're
Mhm,
doing,
mhm.
like what in two different audiences. So
Sure.
communicate to your customers is different than like a potential investor or advisor. I mean,
Right.
those you're talking
Right.
about different things. So if it's a customer, it's like explaining why they should want your product, how you're helping them solve their problems, why they should
Nice.
support you as this founder of a business.
Right.
And then in terms of, other people who could help with networking or with if you're going down the route of investors and that sort of
Sure.
thing, being able to communicate your longer term vision and why you are the right person to run the business. And just you are like when you are the founder of a business, especially someone like me, a solo founder, no team, like I am the
You're
business.
everything. Yeah, you're everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've
Yeah.
become the face of the brand, which I wasn't originally the plan, but that's just happened.
How it happened.
And
Yeah.
so I have had to learn how to be on when I don't want to be on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to just be on brand.
Yeah. Now, do me a favor, Abby, and layer on top of that for me, being a woman. And
Mhm.
you know, you mentioned the communication. there's clearly there's clearly an argument for women being superior at communicating than men in some regards. I said it, you didn't have to. But talk to me about some of that, those characters, is particularly as a woman, and someone who is a soul show.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in today's climate, there's a lot of pros that come with it, certainly on
Sure.
social media, like
Right.
talking about I'm a female founder, and generally my customer is a woman. So
Right.
that
So
can be
they
really helpful. They
relate
love
there.
support.
Yep.
Yeah, they love supporting a
Mhm.
woman-owned business. And like, I mean, I like to say no one's gonna buy from you or support you just because you're a
Of your
woman.
gender. Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
like maybe they'll follow you on social media, but they're that's part of it. That might pique their interest, and then they go, oh, I actually like this product, or my
Mm,
friend will like it, let me send it to her. So I think that there's a lot of pros, but there's also, it can be really challenging to
yeah.
be taken seriously
Seriously.
when
Yep.
you're, especially a woman creating a product for a mostly female customer base.
Sure.
um you have to explain your product to a lot of men who may or may not understand it. Or for me, I often feel like they get it and they'll say, oh, my wife would love this, or my
Right.
daughter would love this, but often don't see it as this big business opportunity because it's
Sure.
just not a category that they think about.
Their mind tends to go towards. Yeah. And I did want to
Yeah.
talk to you a little bit about that too, because I'm always really impressed and quite frankly amazed with folks like yourself that create these consumer products, because gosh, there's a lot of noise in the consumer industry,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of products out there. And on the one hand, it's maybe easier for you to explain what your product does to an audience, right? Than maybe someone who's creating a piece of technology, or maybe even a piece of like enabling technology that sits inside another piece of technology, right? Kind of that whole, can I explain my job at a cocktail party over a jack of all trades? But at the same time, right? So maybe it's easier, but it's also harder because gosh, there's so much noise in the space. Have you seen ways that you've been able to kind of cut through that noise, or is it part
Mhm.
of, yeah, so talk to me a little bit about
I
that.
am, yeah, I like basically have a set way that I introduce myself and talk to people. And I've kind of honed in on that over the past few months. I've been basically forcing myself to go
Yeah.
to a lot of networking events, mostly in
Nice.
LA.
Mm-hmm.
And they're generally e-commerce focused or founder
Sure.
focused. So there'll be founders, there'll be team members of startups and e-commerce brands, and then kind of the e-commerce community. So
Sure.
tech, software, that maybe they help you do your customer service or
Yeah,
marketing or
absolutely.
whatever. So it's all these different people with different interests.
So cool.
And I basically introduce myself and I show every single person my most viral TikTok video without the sound on. You can just visually see what the product is, because I learned that if I don't show someone a video, it just
Yeah,
doesn't.
they need to see the visual representation of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to think, oh, I'm just not good enough with a succinct pitch.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, no, it is a very visual product. This person has not seen it before. They need to see a video.
Right.
And then when I show them the TikTok, they can see that it has, millions of views, all this engagement.
Sure.
And I literally just say,
Maybe.
yeah, this
Yeah.
video drove $100,000 of sales.
Right.
So immediately they're like, oh, wow. Like,
That works. Yeah.
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 And I'm like, I try to say it in a way that's not bragging at all,
Of
but
course.
I've learned that I have to really be like, this is a legit thing.
Right.
I've sold a lot of them. People really like it. And that works. And I think that I try to be as friendly and
Yeah.
smile as much as possible. And that has really worked. So for example, I was making fun of myself to my friends. I was at this event, I guess 2 weeks ago. So it was a week until the Good Morning America airing.
Okay.
Every single person, I show them the video, explain what I'm doing, and I go, oh, and by the way, it's going to be on Good Morning America next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Every single person. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, why would I not mention that?
Of course, you have to mention that. That's huge.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like I'm not going to mention that I'm going to be on national television.
exactly. And so I think part of it is maybe if you're struggling to explain what you do, have a video ready to go.
Nice. I like that. That's
Yeah.
great advice. Yeah, that's really great advice. Because, like we all know, pictures, right? People relate to pictures. It makes perfect sense. So I feel like I skipped over something, so I'm sorry. I want to go back just a second.
No,
So
please.
you're living in New York, you're working in New York, you're from California, so there's probably that whole fish out of water aspect. But
Oh no,
and
I feel way more
at
of
home
in
on
New
the East
York
Coast,
than in
yeah.
California. Yeah.
So that probably speaks to your driven personality. Um, So you're there, you have the idea for Statement Home, for Jack of All Trades. It's really something that you're like, okay, the market is missing this. I found a gap. I'm going to work hard to close that gap, which always again amazes me with entrepreneurs when you see a gap or a problem and you're like, I could just let that sit there and let somebody else figure it out, or I could do it, right? And
Yeah.
so I appreciate that you took the leap of faith to say, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to wait for someone else to fill that gap or solve that problem. But when did you kind of was there an aha moment, Abby? Was there any time when you were like, this is now my thing? Or did that happen kind of organically? Talk to me about that.
No, there was a moment, which
There
is
was a
totally
moment.
going to
Yeah.
be unexpected. I got laid off.
Ah,
So,
that's interesting. Yeah, yeah.
so when I lived in New York, I worked for two different startups for like a year, year and a half
Hmm.
each. I got laid off from both.
Well, that's
As
the startup life. I mean, that's the way.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was part of larger layoffs,
Sure.
third of the company or whatever. Like I wasn't fired, I got laid off. Um,
I
and
wasn't challenging you.
yeah, no, I like, um, but after that happening, not only twice, but back to back,
Yeah,
right out of college, when I was thought of myself as, oh, I went to this good school, I'm really accomplished, I'm
sure,
smart. It was very demoralizing
sure.
and less on the I'm not good enough to have a job, but more on why am I
Why
spending all
me?
the time and effort
Yeah,
working for these startups and really working for these founders who at the end of the day, like they're going to get all the benefits
right.
if this
If
startup
this thing pops,
does.
maybe I have a little equity or whatever, but way down the
Yeah,
ladder compared to other people. Yeah,
exactly. And
yeah,
so then, and I really loved both the jobs I was at and I really liked the teams, but I would think like, oh, like what if we did it this way? And it's
sure.
like that if they don't agree with me, then it didn't happen. And I just started to find myself wanting to do things my own way and seeing a lot of opportunity in e-commerce because I was working for an e-commerce brand
Sure.
during the second layoff.
Yep.
And so it was sort of this juxtaposition of already thinking about wanting to start a business,
Mm,
then being laid off and deciding I can either just get another job and then figure out if I want to do a business. I, or, I don't know why the second option didn't come to me.
come
Like
to you. Yeah, sure.
the
Yeah,
second option, which wasn't in my head, was get another job and do this on the side.
yeah.
To this day, I don't understand why that did not occur to me as an option. It's super reasonable and
Because
a
people's
lot
like, I have a steady income coming in, and I
like
can, yeah, and
I
I could do
probably
this
could have done
nights
that.
and weekends, and maybe it would take longer, but I could still do it that way,
Or
right?
maybe, maybe not. But I can't look back. I don't know what
No,
would have
you have to go
happened.
forward,
That's not
right?
the decision I made.
Sure.
Or the decision was move home,
Okay.
literally move into my parents' house,
Right.
work
Save
with
money. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
save money, work with my mom, who's an interior designer.
Oh, okay. So this is in
Um,
your blood. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I actually
Yeah.
didn't, all I knew is I liked this stuff. I didn't know how to like speak about it or I didn't know
Right.
a lot about it. So I think that actually was helpful. I worked for her for about a year before
Yeah.
I even really did anything. And so I was growing her social medias and
Oh,
digital
that's
stuff.
cool.
And so
Yeah.
learning about how to talk about design and decor online. So that was really helpful,
Well, that's
actually.
probably really important, right? Because the
Yes,
way you're going to communicate about it in an online setting is going to be different than probably traditionally how interior designers like your mom probably worked 15 years ago, where it was probably a
absolutely.
lot of word of mouth or
Yeah.
creating big portfolios to show people and all these other things, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So then I just said, okay, I guess I'm moving home. So within a few weeks, I was leaving New York. All my friends, they were just like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Was that a really difficult decision for you, Abby?
Yeah, yeah, I was crying.
I
Like
bet. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
loved the city. I still want to move back.
Hey,
I I miss it so much. Every time I
right.
go back, I'm like, I wish I lived here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, you never know where things will bring you. And as Statement Home goes bi-coastal, you'll probably have to be in New York. I'm
Yes, can't wait.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about, you are a one woman show, as you mentioned, right? And
Mhm.
how hard is it for you to kind of, balance just the rest of your life in all of this?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
I would have never thought I would be. So I'm at the 3-year point.
Yeah.
It was 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I would have never thought that I would not have an employee by now.
Right.
I have started to work with a remote assistant who's based overseas,
That's great.
kind of manage some customer service and
Sure.
stuff. But I didn't really understand the realities of what it means to grow a business bootstrapped, like
Right.
without investors, which I haven't
Sure.
done yet. And so
Yeah.
I haven't been able to hire anyone
Mhm.
because I'm not hiring someone unless I know I can for sure pay.
Right. Well, you want to pay them because now they're dependent upon you for their livelihood, which is a lot of responsibility.
Sounds so scary.
So scary, right? But then also, I'm sure you want to hire people that are, that are embodied in what you're doing as well, that have the same
Mhm.
values of you, right? That want the
Yeah.
same cultural experiences that you want to create, and it's going to take a while probably to find, those kindreds. I would assume.
Yeah. And so I mean, the business hasn't been able to afford to hire a team. And so
Sure.
I've just learned how to do everything.
Yeah.
And it completely takes a toll on my personal life.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
I think part of that's also I'm not living in a city. I'm in the suburbs. So
Okay.
like I just find that more boring.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, I get that. Yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Some people prefer it. I personally don't.
Well,
Um,
everybody has their own preferences, right? But now you're spending some
yeah.
time in Venice, which is much cooler.
Yes. Yes. So it totally takes an effect on my personal life, on my health,
Yeah.
all of it. It's not
Yeah, I mean,
good.
how do you not work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? I mean, you have to strike that balance because you have to recognize your personal health, your mental health can't be working 24/7, right? It can't be. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and what I'll basically,
Yeah.
what I find I'll do is I'll work really, really hard, like leading up to Good Morning America,
Right.
like hours and hours and hours up till mid more, 3, 4 a.m. And then I just crash and
Yeah.
literally don't even want to think about my product or
Right.
anything for
You
days.
need that decompression. Sure. Yeah.
Yes, but I
Yeah.
think balance would be better. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not going to act like I have this nailed down. I absolutely don't,
Well,
and
I
it's not.
know, and I wouldn't, and very few people do. So don't feel like you have to.
Yeah.
It's as folks listen to this show, a lot of what they try to draw from it, from learning from entrepreneurs like yourself, is like, okay, so how I want to do this. How does Abby do it? Okay, this is her approach. How does someone else do it? I need to find the right approach for me, right? And
Yes.
what I do. So it's super to have you just talking about how you kind of balance, blend, bend whatever you need to do to be successful in the fact that at this current time it's still a one person operation despite the success. I mean, right, like you said, you're selling large amounts of product and moving large amounts of product, but look, hiring people is expensive, and
Mhm.
the costs of creating and producing and shipping your products is expensive, and
Oh, it's too
and what,
expensive.
yeah, so expensive, right? So cool. Talk to me a little bit about you mentioned your friends, they were crying when you left and all this other good stuff. How have you gotten your community, your peeps, to support your business growth? I'm assuming you have some people that are right there beside you. Sounds like your mom's a big champion. Who else has kind of helped? Who's your posse, I guess, is what I'm asking. Yeah.
That's actually a really interesting question because I was just talking to one of my friends from college who's also an entrepreneur
Uh-huh.
in LA. She has a fashion brand.
Oh, cool.
And my friends listen to this. This will be interesting. But one, and I've also heard this from founders on TikTok. That it's really interesting when you launch a business to see how your friends react to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my experience hasn't been unique from what I found is
Sure.
that people come out of the woodwork who like you literally have not talked to in 10 years just because, not because you don't
It's
like them,
life
but
happens. Yeah,
life
because life
happens.
happens. Yeah.
And they are so supportive. They're posting about you, they're responding to congratulations to
That's awesome.
everything.
Yeah.
And it's like amazing
Where'd
because
this
that
come from?
person
Yeah.
isn't
I've been
really
talking to you in
part of
10 years. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then people who you're very close to kind of don't do a lot to support you.
And you're kind of like,
I'm
could
not
you
naming
help?
names, but like,
No, I'm not asking for names. I would never
yes.
do that to you.
And it's really interesting. I think part of it is people are busy and like
Yeah.
I'm not the center of their life. I
Right.
understand that.
Yeah.
I think also people don't get how a simple thing like sharing something on an Instagram story
Can
can
really
actually
help you.
be
Yeah.
so powerful.
Sure. Yeah.
And it takes like 10
10
seconds at
seconds. Not
most.
even, probably 5 seconds. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think people don't understand how much such a small thing can
Can help
mean.
it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to here to say it. Share Abby's posts, like Abby's posts, please. Well,
Yeah.
there's that whole thing about how people think about you. I forget what the statistic is, but like 90% less than you think they think about you, right? So
No. Yeah.
there's that aspect of it, right? For sure. But it sounds like you do have some great supporters and you do have
Yeah. Well,
people
one thing I'll
in your
say is it's
networking community.
networking. So I've been going to a bunch of events,
Yeah, you mentioned
been
that. Yeah.
meeting other founders, or like I'll meet someone who works for some e-commerce company and then they're saying you should be using our service and they give you a discount. And then now I just became friends with
Yeah,
someone. She
that's
works
great. Yeah.
for the company that put on the event. She lives in LA. We're going to see each other tomorrow. Like, great.
Perfect. Yeah.
We have mutual
Yeah.
friends too, which
Right.
we discovered. So
Even better.
yeah,
Yeah.
just putting yourself out there. Go up to everyone. I mean, I
Yeah.
could go on and on about networking and how you
Yeah.
just pretend to be confident even if you're not.
I've heard that so many times from entrepreneurs that say, had to get out of my comfort zone. I had to walk up to this person and talk to them, even though I would have never done that before. Right. It's like,
Here's a great story, which hopefully can inspire people to do
oh, please
that. So
go. Yeah.
at this event last week, there was a founder of a company speaking. I thought he was just incredible, inspirational. He sold $70 million worth of his product in
Wow.
4 years, has
Wow.
no outside investment. I'm like,
Like,
what?
what is the secret
What?
to that success? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, how is that
What deal did you
possible?
make with the devil, dude? Because I want to
Like,
know.
and like the event's about to end hours later. I realized I hadn't gone up to him, and I just go straight up to him. I was like, "Hi, I wanted to thank you.
Yeah.
It was you're inspirational. It was so helpful." And he's like, "Really? Like, I don't know. I didn't know how good my talk was." I'm like, "What
Oh,
do
so
you
even the
mean? It was
person like that
great."
has got some insecurities, right? We all do.
Every founder thinks they're
Yeah.
not good enough. That's what I
Right.
learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then he's, asking what I do. I show him the TikTok. I mentioned Good Morning America, do my whole spiel. And we're literally getting kicked out of the event because it's ending. And he said, "Well, do you want to come get drinks with me and some people?" I'm like, "Okay."
Okay. Yeah. That
It
sounds
turned
fun.
into a 4.5 hour dinner with him, these other people. They're all in e-commerce. And I didn't know any of them, but I just show up and it was so cool. And now
That's
he's been
beautiful.
helpful with other things. And that's just literally because I went up and said hi.
Yeah. So there you go, right? All you just broke the barrier, right?
Yeah.
And now you're getting these amazing results
Mhm.
as part of it. That's so cool. And I love it when I hear stories of folks like what you just told, where they're not necessarily looking to get something out of this for themselves, right? They just want to be helpful.
Mhm.
And that's really cool, right? They're not like, "Hey, Abby, I'll do this, but I need a cut of your sales or whatever." It's just more
Well,
like, yeah,
also,
yeah.
I mean,
They
I
realize
think
it's helpful.
often, I mean, most founders are like, there's always something to learn from another founder.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
And I mean, this one in particular, he kept saying, "You know more than I do." And I'm
Yep.
like, "Excuse me, sir, you've sold $70 million. Like, what do you mean
But
he's
there
like,
is going to be something that you're going to know that he doesn't, whether it's what you've done virally on TikTok, what maybe,
exactly, that's what he's mentioning. He
a
said,
trick
I
you
don't,
learned from a supplier, something, right?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
Very cool. Before we let you go, Abby, talk
mhm.
to us, if you can, a little bit about, without divulging any secrets. What's next for Statement Home? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, I can actually
Yeah.
absolutely speak to this. So I envision way more than doing trays. So
Cool.
Jack of all trays is just the first
One
product.
one product. Yep.
What will be many. I don't say what will hopefully, what will be
Will be.
many.
Love it. Will it into
Um,
existence. Yep.
yeah. So I mean, the brand is called Statement Home. So
Right.
it's a home decor brand. And I really think of myself as pioneering like versatility in the home
Hmm.
decor category. There's really no one doing it or
Yep.
talking about it. In any sort of large way. And so I want to create a whole line of products that are all interchangeable or space saving, versatile in some capacity.
Nice.
So all the types of things that you use for serving food and drink, entertaining, for decorating, and kind
Yeah.
of that will also coordinate with each other. So if I'm creating coasters, for example,
Sure.
the inserts that would go in a coaster would match the inserts in the tray or coordinate, so it's like you have this whole look
Nice.
that
Yeah.
works together.
Yeah.
And
And I
I
love
also
the niche that you're doing around like the versatility,
Mhm.
small homes, that kind of cool. That's really cool.
Exactly. And like, so for example, here's like a cup. I'll never just sell a cup.
Right.
Would my customers buy a cup that matches their tray inserts? Yes, I'm sure
Probably.
they would.
Yeah.
But I want to create a cup that is somehow space saving or versatile because
Right.
you can buy a normal cup anywhere.
Anywhere, right? Yeah, anywhere,
Yeah.
literally. Yeah. One, someone I used to work with a while back mentioned that she won't put something on her kitchen counter unless it serves three purposes.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
that's kind of cool. Like, so
Yeah.
she wouldn't just buy a toaster oven; she would buy like a toaster oven, air fryer,
Mhm.
like combination thing,
Yeah.
a broiler combination thing, or not just a coffee maker, but it's coffee plus espresso plus whatever. Like, she's like, it has to serve, because if it's going to occupy precious space on my
Mhm.
kitchen counter, it needs to serve at least three purposes. And maybe one of those purposes, it just has to look nice, right?
Yeah.
I
No,
mean, that just
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
aesthetically pleasing. So cool. Well, best of luck to you in all of your product expansion ideas. We'll be following.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. And again, Abby, thank you for chatting with us. You've been so busy with everything you're doing to promote your brand and get your product out in front of the masses. So, hey, thanks for coming on our show and telling your story. And I know folks will drive inspiration from it. So we'll look forward to keeping in touch and watching you guys shoot up.
Thank you. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for having me. This is really fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby.
Bye.